There's a child within you who still whispers secrets to your adult heart, shaping every hug you offer and every tear you shed for love. Right now, as you listen to these words, a silent dance is happening between the 5-year-old you and the person you choose to be today. It's an ancient conversation between your eternal soul and the memories you carry from this lifetime, a dialogue that Edgar Cayce, the renowned psychic who taught us about the soul's mysteries, called patterns etched in the mental substance, because, my dear viewer, your childhood wasn't just a period of earthly learning, it was the moment your soul chose to experience certain lessons through specific people, in particular circumstances, all orchestrated by the infinitely wise universe. When you were little, each glance of approval or rejection from your parents wasn't just an isolated experience. It was your soul registering vibrational patterns that would become the strings of the instrument you'd play in all your future relationships. Cayce revealed that we carry within our spiritual essence the imprints of our deepest experiences, and that these imprints manifest as tendencies, fears, desires, and ways of loving that seem inexplicable, but are actually echoes of our evolutionary journey. Think about the first time you felt truly seen and loved. Maybe it was when your mother stopped everything she was doing just to listen to your story about a dream you had, or when your father hoisted you onto his shoulders, making you feel like a giant and protected at the same time. That moment wasn't accidental. It was your soul recording the frequency of unconditional love, creating a pattern you'd spend the rest of your life trying to find again in other people. Like a musician who hears a perfect melody and then tries to recreate its notes on different instruments, you seek in each new relationship echoes of that first moment of fullness. But the universe is complex in its wisdom, and not all childhood experiences were sweet melodies. Some were storms that marked your soul with the force of lightning. That time you ran to show a drawing you'd made and were ignored, or when you expressed an emotion and were rejected for it. These moments were also etched into your essence, not as punishments, but as invitations from the soul to develop certain qualities: compassion, inner strength, the ability to love even when you don't feel loved. Edgar Cayce taught us that nothing in our human experience is accidental. Every childhood wound is a disguised door to spiritual growth. When a child learns that they must be good to receive love, they aren't just developing a behavior, their soul is choosing to experience what it's like to seek external validation to later learn to find their own inner light. It's a sacred process, even when painful. Notice how this manifests in your adult relationships. Have you ever noticed how, inexplicably, you're drawn to people who awaken in you the same feelings you experienced in childhood? Sometimes it's the feeling of safety and protection. Other times it's that painful familiarity of trying to win the love of someone who remains emotionally distant, just like that first caregiver you so desperately wanted to reach. This isn't masochism or a lack of self-awareness. It's your soul recognizing opportunities for healing and growth through the conscious repetition of old patterns. Freud intuited something profound when he said that the unconscious repeats what it cannot remember. But he saw this only through the lens of earthly psychology. The spiritual perspective revealed through Cayce's teachings shows us that this repetition is in fact the soul giving itself new opportunities to choose differently, to heal what was hurt, to transform limiting patterns into expanded wisdom. Every person who enters your life romantically is, on a deeper level, a mirror of the soul. They reflect aspects of yourself that need to be acknowledged, loved, or transformed. When you fall in love with someone who makes you feel special and unique, as you wished you felt as a child, that person is serving as a channel for you to remember your own divine light. When you're drawn to someone who awakens your need to prove your worth, they're offering an opportunity for you to finally learn that your worth is inherent, not earned. The arguments you have with your current partner are rarely about what they seem to be. When you fight about money, you're actually activating primal fears about security and provision that were shaped in childhood. When you argue about time and attention, you're touching old wounds about feeling prioritized or abandoned. Each conflict is a disguised opportunity to heal something that was hurt a long time ago, not just in this life, but possibly in other soul experiences. Cayce revealed that we carry with us, life after life, the unresolved patterns of our relationships. The child who felt rejected may carry that wound through several incarnations until they find the perfect circumstances to transform that pain into deep compassion. The boy who learned that expressing vulnerability was dangerous may spend lifetimes developing emotional courage until he can open his heart completely. Each current relationship is a continuation of this eternal journey of learning and healing. And here's a truth that may seem unsettling, but is actually deeply liberating. You chose your parents. Before incarnating, your soul observed the possibilities for growth offered by certain family lineages and chose the one that would provide exactly the experiences necessary for your evolution. This doesn't mean that all pain was deserved or fair. It means that your soul is courageous enough to choose challenges that would expand it beyond its previous limitations. That overprotective mother was chosen by a soul who needed to learn about independence and self-reliance. That emotionally distant father was selected by a spirit who came to develop self-compassion and the ability to nurture themselves. The siblings who sparked jealousy and competition were called by a soul that needed to discover its own unique individuality and worth. Each family dynamic was a sacred laboratory for spiritual growth. When you understand this, your current relationships gain a whole new dimension. You stop seeing your partner as someone who should fulfill your emotional needs and begin to recognize them as a spiritual collaborator on your awakening journey. That tendency of theirs to shut down emotionally during conflict isn't just an annoying flaw, it's an invitation for you to develop patience, understanding, and the capacity for unconditional love. That need of theirs for constant reassurance isn't just insecurity, it's an opportunity for you to practice emotional generosity and compassionate presence. Synchronicity starts to appear when you develop these spiritual eyes. You meet someone precisely when you're ready to learn the lessons that person offers. That argument that seemed destructive happens just when you're both mature enough to use conflict as a catalyst for growth instead of separation. Painful breakups occur when you've completed what you came to do together in this phase of the journey, even if your rational minds don't yet understand. Remember that strange feeling of déjà vu when you met someone special, or that instant familiarity that seemed impossible to explain. Casey taught us that these experiences are memories of the soul recognizing companions from past journeys you've met before in other lives, other circumstances, to work on the same lessons that still need integrating. That's why certain people evoke such intense and inexplicable feelings in you. You're not just meeting someone new, you're reuniting with an old soul companion. But be careful not to romanticize this process too much. Not every soulmate encounter is destined for a happily ever after in the way our culture teaches. Sometimes, two souls meet to complete something unfinished, to forgive something that still hurts, to learn something they don't yet know. True love between souls sometimes expresses itself through conscious separation, when both recognize they've grown beyond what they could offer each other at that moment. The end of a relationship can be as sacred as its beginning, if lived with awareness and gratitude for what was shared. And at this moment, as you absorb these words reaching your heart, you might be starting to recognize patterns in your own life that you'd never noticed before. If these revelations are awakening something in you, if you feel that finally someone is speaking the language your soul has understood for so long, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell, because this isn't just casual conversation, it's a call for those ready to see life and relationships through the eyes of the soul. Here, weekly, we explore these profound mysteries that connect our human experience with our eternal spiritual nature. If you feel these teachings reached you at the right time, like everything true in life, then you belong to this community of awakened souls who have chosen to grow in consciousness and love. Subscribe now, because your presence here is no coincidence, it's your soul recognizing a sacred space of learning and transformation. Childhood patterns manifest in such subtle ways in our adult relationships that we often experience them as personal preferences or types we're drawn to, without realizing they're echoes of unmet needs or formative experiences. The woman who consistently falls for men who need saving or fixing may be reliving the role she assumed in childhood of caring for an alcoholic father or a depressed mother. Her soul registered that love means sacrifice and one-sided care, so she unconsciously seeks situations where she can recreate that family dynamic. The man who's attracted to partners who are emotionally volatile or unpredictable may be repeating the pattern of trying to win the love of a mother who alternated between excessive affection and cruel coldness. As a child, he learned that love comes with drama and uncertainty, so stable and predictable relationships may seem boring or passionless to his soul, which associates emotional intensity with depth of connection. But herein lies the beauty of spiritual awareness. When we begin to recognize these patterns, we can choose to honor them in ways that are healing instead of repetitive. The woman who loves fixing people can channel that natural inclination by becoming a therapist, teacher, or mentor, offering her gift of nurturing healing professionally and balancedly instead of losing herself in codependent relationships. The man attracted to intensity can learn to find passion through creativity, adventure, or spiritual growth, instead of confusing emotional turbulence with true love. Edgar Cayce often spoke about how the character flaws that most bother us in other people are mirrors of the aspects of ourselves that we need to integrate or heal. That tendency of your partner to be overly critical may be reflecting your own inner critical voice that you developed to protect yourself from disappointments based on childhood experiences where nothing you did was good enough. Their need to always be right may be mirroring your own difficulty with being vulnerable and admitting mistakes, a defense mechanism you created after being humiliated or shamed as a child. Relationships become laboratories of self-discovery when we understand that every irritation, every emotional trigger, every repeating pattern is your soul offering valuable information about areas that still need attention and healing. Instead of trying to change the other person or running away from conflict, you can use each relational challenge as an opportunity to dive deeper into your own spiritual psyche and uncover which old wounds are asking to be healed. Healing doesn't happen through unconscious repetition, but through conscious repetition. When you recognize that you're being drawn to someone who awakens the same childhood patterns, but this time you choose to respond differently, you are literally rewriting your soul's programming. Instead of becoming small and submissive when your partner gets angry, as you did as a child to avoid abandonment, you choose to maintain your dignity and express your needs clearly and lovingly. Instead of exploding with anger when you feel ignored, as you learn to do to get attention, you choose to communicate your need for connection in a vulnerable and direct way. Every time you choose to respond to your partner from your conscious adult wisdom, instead of your automatic childhood wounds, you are literally healing your ancestral lineage. Families carry emotional and relational patterns through generations. The father who didn't know how to express love becomes the son who fears intimacy, who becomes the father who emotionally distances himself, perpetuating the cycle. When you break these patterns in your own relationships, you're not just healing, you're healing your entire lineage, both backward and forward in time. Cayce revealed to us that time isn't linear in the spiritual realm. When you heal a pattern in your current life, that healing radiates through all your existences, past and future. The wounded child you carry within is retroactively healed when you learn to love yourself unconditionally. Future relationships you haven't yet lived are blessed when you transform your patterns of love in the present. It's like throwing a pebble in a pond. The ripples expand in all directions, touching shores you can't even see. Sometimes the deepest healing comes through forgiveness. Not the superficial forgiveness we say with words, but the forgiveness that arises from the deep spiritual understanding that all the actors in your childhood, parents, siblings, caregivers, were also souls on a journey, doing the best they could with the level of consciousness they possessed at that time. Your critical mother might have been a soul who came to learn about unconditional acceptance, using you as a teacher to develop that quality. Your absent father might have been a spirit who needed to experience the consequences of emotional isolation to develop the capacity for intimacy in future incarnations. This understanding doesn't justify abusive or neglectful behavior, nor does it eliminate the need to set healthy boundaries, but it transforms the energy with which you carry these experiences. Instead of resentment that keeps you trapped in the past, you develop compassion that frees you to create relationships based on conscious choice, instead of automatic reactions to familiar patterns. True mastery in relationships comes when you can love someone completely, including their flaws, their fears, their limitations, without trying to change or fix them, but also without sacrificing your own needs and integrity in the process. This balance between acceptance and self-care is the synthesis of all the lessons of childhood. It's the mature love that honors both your inner child and your adult wisdom. When you develop this capacity, your relationships become sacred spaces where two souls can grow together without losing themselves in each other. You can support each other without becoming dependent. You can be vulnerable without becoming victims. You can love deeply without giving up your individuality. This is the kind of love that heals generations of dysfunctional patterns and sows infinite possibilities for future generations. Children born from healed relationships carry a different emotional programming. They grow up knowing they are loved not for what they do, but for who they are. They learn that conflicts can be resolved with respect and communication. They develop the ability to maintain their personal integrity even when they love deeply. These children become adults who naturally attract and create healthy relationships, breaking cycles of pain that may have existed in their lineages for centuries. But even if you don't have biological children, your relational healing work affects all the children you interact with: nieces and nephews, students, friends' children, even strangers' children, who observe how you treat your partner in public. You are constantly modeling possibilities of love for future generations. Every time you choose to respond with patience instead of reactivity, you are teaching a child that adults can be safe and trustworthy. Every time you express your needs with clarity and kindness, you are showing that it's possible to be strong and vulnerable at the same time. Childhood doesn't determine your adult relationships, it informs them. The difference is crucial. Determinism implies a lack of choice, a fixed programming that cannot be changed. But information can be made conscious, processed, integrated, and transformed. You are not a victim of your childhood programming. You are the artist who can use those primary colors to paint any kind of relationship you choose to create. The most beautiful relationships you know, those couples who seem to dance together even after decades, those friends who support each other without competing, those families where everyone feels free to be authentic, are not accidental. They are the result of people who have done the inner work of recognizing their patterns, healing their wounds, and consciously choosing how they want to love and be loved. They have transformed their childhood experiences into wisdom, their pains into compassion, their limitations into strength. The wisdom of Edgar Cayce reminds us that we came to Earth not to suffer but to learn. Every experience, even the most painful from childhood, holds a sacred lesson, a disguised gift, an opportunity for growth. When you can extract the wisdom from your past experiences without getting stuck in them, you become free to create relationships that are authentic expressions of who you've chosen to become, not merely reactions to what you've lived through. At this moment, reflecting on all that's been shared, you may be beginning to see your own story in a completely new light. That childhood you thought was normal or troubled reveals itself as a perfectly designed curriculum for your soul to learn exactly the lessons it needed to master. Those relationships that brought both joy and pain emerge as necessary chapters in your journey of discovering how to truly love. The question echoing now isn't "why did this happen to me?" but "what was my soul trying to learn through these experiences, and how can I honor those lessons by creating relationships that reflect my highest wisdom?" Because ultimately, my dear listener, you didn't come into this life to repeat patterns, you came to transform them. You're not here to be a victim of your programming. You're here to become the conscious programmer of your own experience of love. What revelation is awakening in your heart right now about the eternal dance between who you were, who you are, and who you are choosing to become through the sacred way you love?